What is going on, guys, and welcome to CSS tutorial. In this video we're actually going to talk about div and span elements, which we actually covered in HTML tutorial, but we were not able to cover them in much detail. Only thing that I said is they are actually used to style elements that are bunched together, and let's say this is going to be for a div element, and the span element was actually used to style the element that is within the line. So let's say if I would want to just style this word CSS over here in H1. Now what I did over here is I created these three paragraphs, right? And I actually duplicated the same paragraphs. And what I'm going to show you is that when I said that we are using actually a lot of div elements in the CSS. And the reason for that is in the previous video, we covered that div elements in general could serve as a parent elements, right? So body element over here is the parent for all these elements, all 6 of them, right? Well, now 7 because I created a div. But what I can do over here is I can just, I'm just gonna cut this one right now and paste it over here. And now you can see that my div element right now serves as a parent. And you can see that live preview right away gives me this little box for these 3 elements. And just like before, what we can do is we can use the selector, and in this case I'm just going to be using the div selector, and I'm just going to select this div and I'm going to start working with that. So let's say I'm just going to go over here, I'm going to say background color, and I'm just going to go with the red over here. And you can see that right away my div over here is affected because this is the parent element. However, my 3 elements over here, they're not affected. And you can see why right now we're using a lot of these divs, because we can actually choose which elements we're actually putting within the div, and then we can start styling it. So let's say I would again use the text align, and I would just say that I want it right, okay? So you can see all my elements right away went to the right. However, these 3 still stayed unaffected. And I also want to show you that, let's say when we were working with an image, right? Remember we were able to use the width property when we said, oh, well, let's say we were going to make it to 300, right? Width over here. So I just write 300 pixels, and you can see how my div is right away changing. And the same I can do with the height. And we're going to be covering these properties more detail in the next videos, but I just want to show you what you can do. And you can see over here that, let's say if I would create another div for this, I could just start styling both of them, and I can start changing the width and the height, and that's very, very neat. Now, I also want to show you again something we'll be covering in more detail, but I just want you to be aware of that we can actually use a very neat feature of percentages. So let's say over here I would write my width, and I can just write that I want 30% of the screen that I have. I'm not writing the pixels because the screen can change, right? As my screen is, let's say, getting bigger, you can see that it's right away taking the 30%. And as it's going smaller, you can see that it's also getting smaller. So it's very good when you're starting to work with responsible designs, that actually if you're styling for smaller screens, this is the percentages we can use to do that. And I'm just going to delete this for now. The height we don't care about for now. So now we have a width that it's 30%, and you can see that this text is kind of looping out, but that's okay. We don't care about it right now. And let's just check it out what we can do with the span. So we have the same thing. I'm just going to write over here span, and within the span element, let's say I'm just going to place this little CSS. So I'm just going to cut it, and I'm just going to paste it over here. Now you can see that I have my span over here, but you can see that technically nothing is happening, right? So again, we need to go over here, and we need to actually select the span element. What do we want to do? And again, we're just going to start with something that we could right away see, and that's going to be background color, right? So let's say I'm just going to use aqua, right? So you can see that right away I changed this little element, and that's the reason for span. We're not using it actually to change some type of style on a, let's say, big 3-element sections or something like that. Actually, you're doing that when you want to change something in line. And remember, when I was working in HTML, I was showing you that we can add style over here, and we can do that. However, in CSS, the reasoning for that, we don't do it because what we want to do is, let's say we're going to create multiple spans over here, right? So if I would go over here all the way, and I would do the same thing with this CSS. So what I would want to do is let's say I'm just gonna paste it. We'll see what, oh, the CSS is pasting. This is what we don't want. But let's say if I would just copy this and copy this one over here and paste it. And now I'm just gonna delete this CSS, and you can see what happens. So whenever I have a span element in two places, right, they both affected because I'm actually selecting it within my style tags here in head element. I don't want to start styling them one by one. I can do that, and we're actually going to be covering in later videos how to do it and the reasonings why not to do it. But the main point is that we can do styling with affecting through the style element over here much more better, because we can actually affect multiple elements at the same time. Let's say all the span elements that we have. This is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.